payday, and this payday I took home $22,720.57. Every single time I get paid, I like to take my paycheck, stick it into the software that you see on screen, and give every single dollar a job. And today is no different. I know sometimes if you receive a windfall or unexpected income, I don't know, it can be a little intimidating sometimes to figure out where it can go. My remaining balance on my car is somewhere around like $15,000. I think you could ask a question like, should this money go to that and to pay that off? Should this money go to my investment account? How do you make those decisions? I think for me, the YNAB questions can really help to pin that down. So the first question is, what does this money need to do before I'm paid again? And so this is their reality question. And so for me, this money has to do a couple things before I get paid. First, it has to cover this spending from the Cowboy Carter concert, because I don't want to create any new debt. That does not really make sense to me for where I am right now. I don't carry credit card debt. Don't plan to start now. So I'm going to just hit underfunded here and cover that amount. The second thing that this money needs to do is it needs to cover my spending for the rest of this month, cover my expected spending. As you can see here with this new cost to be me that they've put in, my total targets are around $10,000 and I am underfunded. I have not hit those. So I will go ahead and go back through fixed costs, starting with fixed costs again, and assign this money out. Okay, so within the home category, we have paid for utilities actually. I didn't realize those were going to come out earlier in the month, but I'm still going to fund this to the full $400 because it kind of creates my own balance billing. If I can build a little buffer here, that means in the months where electricity especially is higher, coming up in the summer, we might be running the AC more. So I want to make sure I have something set aside for that. Wi-Fi is $106. That has not come out, so I'll go ahead and fund that. Our cleaning service, I think I funded this last time, but I had to move money around to cover, I think, my car payment or something else. So I'll fund that for the next cleaning. And then I also pulled from household goods, and I will fund that as well. Then next, in our fixed costs, we have food and drink, which includes our meal kit, groceries, and meals at work. I had funded these last time and needed to move money around too, probably to cover either the utility bills or the car payment. I don't know. Together, that's like a total of $900. So I definitely shuffled things around, but I'll fill those back up so that way we're ready for the rest of this month. Within planes, trains, and automobiles, my car payment has already come out, so I will snooze that. And auto insurance actually gets us a little bit into YNAB's second question. So I will hold off there. Let's see, anything else here? Well, I can snooze these two because these have already come out for the month. Did that do anything? No. How do you snooze on here again? I don't remember. Okay, let's just do one at a time then. We'll snooze and move this money up to ready to assign. Here we go. But we should be good on fixed costs as far as what needs to come out this month. The second question that YNAB asks is the stability question. What larger, less frequent spending do I need to prepare for? So that would be something here like my auto insurance, which comes out, twice a year. So I don't, I'm not going to miss a payment or something this month if I don't fund this category, but I like to build this up slowly over time so that it's not, a surprise. I'm not scrambling to pay when that insurance bill comes out. So I will fund that as well. And then I'll flip over to my savings goals, which is kind of more along this stability question. Earlier this month, I ended up buying some contacts, and so I had $250 in this out-of-pocket medical category, and now you can see I have $10 left. I'm going to snooze this because I had set aside what I'd planned to set aside, and I spent from that as planned, so that's good. Trips and experiences I will hold off on, but holidays is another example of one of these stability questions. Like, we all know that the winter holidays come up every single year, so to me it just makes sense to have money set aside for that as well. Based on last year's spending, I wanted to set aside $3,500 for 2025, and I'm going to figure out how to get back on track and do that. I think I'm going to start by moving this $106.46 to ready to assign to kind of start fresh. And then previously, I think I had been setting aside $292 a month for this to be on track. And yeah, that looks right. And if I flip over to June, I need $292. So I think that is pretty good. All right. Gifts for others. I bought a couple gifts, I think for coworkers and a Mother's Day gift. I'm going to leave this one alone for now. And then mutual aid, I will put $10 in to just build that up over time as well. The last view that I need to fund for the month is my guilt-free spending. This is just what it sounds like. Things that I value that I want to spend on guilt-free every single month. This name for this view, I guess, comes from Ramit Sethi's method. And I think he recommends 20 to 35%. Something like that. I could be wrong. To be spent on guilt-free spending a month. I find that if I'm not setting aside money for guilt-free spending, I feel really restricted, and that leads to less than ideal decision making. So I'm going to fund the usuals here, which is food and drink. So that's restaurants and coffee, as well as my personal guilt-free spending fund. And I am going to set aside enough money in my Pilates category to go ahead and buy another 5-class pack at my studio. So we're going to do that. All right. And then if I just go over to the all view, now you can see that we have fully funded the month of May. And then with that done and still $14,000 remaining, we need to go to the next question that YNAB asks, which is the resilience question. Basically, what can I set aside for next month's spending? So to figure that out, I'm going to actually flip over to next month and we will start funding that as well. And actually first, I'm going to move this $1.96 to ready to assign. So that's out of the way. And let's go ahead and get started. So same thing as what we just went through. We're going to start with fixed costs and fund the home category. Boom. We did that all at once. Then we have food and drink for next month. Going to go ahead and fund that too. Planes, trains, and automobiles. Going to just hit all of those and make sure this is a whole dollar amount for no particular reason other than I'd like to see whole dollar amounts up here. All right, and then my personal care, that's like my personal hygiene products. We'll set aside $200. And then we're back to memberships and subscriptions, where we will go down this list as well and set aside what we need there. And I will make YNAB a whole dollar amount. Oops, that's the wrong one. And Chase Sapphire annual fee and Blue Cash annual fee. Cool. Now we have savings goals again. So we're going to set aside $125 for out-of-pocket medical costs. We will skip trips and come back to that in another video. And then holidays, we will set aside $292 for June. We'll set aside $40 for gifts and $10 for mutual aid. Then we have our guilt-free spending once again, and I will just hit the big ones, which are restaurants, coffee, and my personal guilt-free spending. Okay, so I think that looks good there. So we funded May, we funded June. Oh, wait, forgot. I need to update this view for fixed costs for June going forward. I need to actually add a category for 2025 income taxes because I owed, or what is that, 2024? I owed in 2024. I basically made much more than I had ever made before, and need to adjust my withholding going forward, which I have now, but I didn't last year and I didn't realize I needed to. So I will be paying $300 a month to the IRS for some number of years. I don't know, I think 3 years or something like that. Okay, so that is taken care of. And the last thing I'm going to do for stability, which might be a little bit different than what you've seen generally or what you see other people do, is I'm going to go a little bit further out and assign some money in both July and August. And this is because if we go back to May, you can see that the expected income from just the regular paychecks for myself and my partner is less than the targets. You know, that's not good, obviously, unless you're planning on, just going into a little bit of debt. I don't really want to do that. So I'm going to give myself a buffer for July. I will set aside $1,200. And I'm going to do the same thing in August. And that will just give us a little bit more stability, a little bit more evenness in our cash flow from month to month, and make sure we have everything that we want to spend covered. All right, so we have $1,000 left. That went very quickly. So what do we want to do with this? I think for now, I may just put this into holding, honestly, and I don't need this category anymore. I may put this into holding, and then we'll get to YNAB's fourth question in my next video next week, as we budget out the rest of my income for May. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Hope this was somewhat useful of a walkthrough, and can't wait to see you in the next one. Bye.